In September of 2018, along with our friends Barbara and Jim, we took a guided tour of Croatia and Slovenia. Join us as we revisit the sights and sounds of those marvelous countries. As they say in Croatia, Dobar dan. For most of our 8-hour flight and coach to Croatia's Tuđman Airport near Zagreb, we feel as squashed as these pretzels. But after landing and leaving baggage claim, we spot a colorful, welcoming sign. Its images of lace, Roman ruins, a cravat, a cathedral, and other Croatian symbols pleasantly whets our appetite for what lies ahead. En route to our hotel, we pass a 1990s Homeland War memorial. Throughout our tour, we realize that war is burned into the memory of Croatians. Having been conquered many times over the past 1,000 years, and having endured totalitarian rule for much of the 20th century, the Croatian people cherish their recent, hard-won independence. After checking into our hotel, we start walking, passing by several impressive buildings and sculptures in the lower city. But what should we choose from this great assortment of attractions to look into first? Of course, a place for dinner. Untitled Restaurant has an arched, stone-ceilinged dining room and a larger, plain one where we sit. There we get our first taste of Croatian wine and Ojusko beer. On the menu is something interesting, an item called roasted potatoes and veal under an iron bell. Unfortunately, we arrived before it's ready to try. However, at the end of the trip, we do get another chance for tasting it. As we walk back to our hotel after dinner, we take a quick peek into the gilded and masterfully painted interior of the National Theatre, at the nearby statue of St. George slaying the dragon, and the steel sunray and orange sun sculptures that are lit at night at the Academy of Music. You'll see the sunray on the right as these trams pass by. After that, we encounter a lively outdoor wedding under the blue lights at the Museum of Arts and Crafts. After a hearty breakfast the next morning, it's time for touring. We catch a cab to the Miragoj cemetery in the upper town. Why go to a cemetery of all places when on vacation? To see the elaborate headstones and sculptures there. The artwork on the graves and the care with which they are tended shows how much the families honor their deceased ancestors. We end up at the starkly black grave of the first president of Croatia, Franjo Tuđman. Moving downhill, the next stop is at the City Museum. While it has a nondescript exterior, inside it displays a vast collection of Zagrebian artifacts from prehistoric times to the end of the 20th century. It has an intriguing mix of items representing the city's history. There are numerous statues and other pieces from cathedral renovations. Getting close to such items that normally would have been far away makes it easy to appreciate the intricate artistry that went into them. Then there are objects from the military and secret societies, as well as people's apartments from a century and more ago. Rifles chillingly point to a wall with a grid of finely drawn practice targets. The fountain pen inventor, Penkala, is humorously sculpted with a pen perched on a giant ear. One of Zagreb's main attractions in the upper town is St. Mark's Church. While the facade is not as grand as nearby St. Mary's Cathedral, it has roof tiles arranged in the shapes of the coat of arms of the kingdoms of Croatia, Slovenia, and Dalmatia, as well as that of Zagreb. A little girl runs toward a large flock of pigeons, startling them as they fly by the guards, who keep their eyes on the crowd. A few steps away is the white-walled Lotrscak Tower. The tower houses a cannon that's fired every day at noon. Long ago, it was used to battle attacking Ottomans, and now is just a fun tradition to mark time. From here, we get a sweeping view of the city. Just below it is what Zagrebians call the world's shortest funicular. But since it is a steep walk from the lower town, taking it is a practical idea to make the walk easier. A guitarist melodically strums in hope of tips while the funicular operates on this cloudy day. Then we take the long, steep walk down to the lower city. One thing about Zagreb that doesn't impress us is the plentiful and unartistic graffiti that's scrawled all over. Even city-sponsored murals such as this one are not immune. Kind of ironic. Next stop is Ban Josip Jelacic Square, home to a statue of a famous Croatian leader. This large square was packed with joyous celebrants last summer when Croatia made the World Cup finals. They are still celebrating, at least in the souvenir shirt shops. We were checking out this bronze model of the city when the tower cannon emphatically fired. The birds weren't the only ones who were surprised.
Did you hear the cannon?
Included in the city model is a sculpture of the St. Mary of the Assumption Cathedral. An image of it was on the welcome sign back at the airport. Just uphill by 2 blocks from the model towers the huge structure with its opulent interior. Our guide tells us that the chandeliers were paid for with the winnings from a trip to Las Vegas by one of the gambling faithful. Perhaps that explains the 3 dice on the stained glass. This building is quite impressive at night as well. As the rain ends, we arrive at the Dolak farmers market, just in time for its closing. The nearly 100-year-old market is colorful and loaded with food, Licitar heart biscuits, souvenirs, hand fans, flowers, and lavender products. A singer entertains nearby. Barb stands arm in arm with a sturdy market woman at Dolak. We leave Zagreb and ride to the border with Slovenia. From what we've heard, it can take as much as 8 hours to get past Slovenian security for no discernible reason. We're lucky. There's only about a 2-hour delay. Finally, we cross over and are on our way up to the Julian Alps, the Postonja Caves, and scenic Lake Bled. Dragons figure prominently in Slovenian iconography. Here's one at a roundabout. Later, we'll see others in Ljubljana, Slovenia's capital city, such as at their famous dragon bridge, and even on the manhole covers. Other towns have different and delightful welcoming signs at their entrances. The next morning, we fortify ourselves at our breakfast buffet, then drive into Ljubljana. It's surrounded by mountains, some snow-capped on this September day. It's a little chilly in the morning, but we get moving quickly and warm up during our informative and entertaining tour by local guide Katja. With its stern-faced friezes and statues, Ljubljana sports a Viennese look, thanks to its history with the Habsburg Empire. Sprinkled in is an occasional wry sense of architectural humor. In 2016, the city won a European award for its extensive investment in recycling and renewable energy. It's no wonder, then, that we see lots of bicyclists, including some succumbing to the temptation of riding and texting. The Ljubljana River winds through the city, flowing under the Triple Bridge. At the central square, there's a statue of national poet Prešeren with his muse perched over him. In the market in the main square, there are abundant offerings, including gigantic porcini mushrooms. A weight scale is available for customers to verify the vendor's prices. Along the way is a Lotrscak bridge. While it's a bit more orderly than others we've seen in Europe, even one of the whimsical sea sculptures on its handrail has been locked. At one end of this particular bridge is a modern statue of a very unhappy biblical Adam and Eve after being expelled from Eden. The Dragon Bridge is guarded by one of the country's national symbols. Despite attempts to rename it, this name has stuck. If there was a toll to pay for crossing, we wouldn't argue with these bridge keepers. They even guard the manhole covers. St. Nicholas Cathedral dates to the 13th century, but has been damaged and rebuilt many times since then. This was the most ornate cathedral we saw on our trip. The numerous bright paintings, frescoes, and adornments are reminiscent of St. Peter's in the Vatican. A massive bronze door has reliefs of Slovenian bishops. Outside, we gaze up at the city castle. A funicular is the way to go for convenient access, but now we have to turn away and head for gorgeous alpine Lake Bled. First, we savor the local delicacy called cremna rezina. Invented in 1953, it has rum, lemon, and vanilla as ingredients. The smooth, creamy texture adds to the pleasure of the sinfully delicious treat. We thoroughly enjoyed it, and now must pretend to walk it off. That brings us down to the lakeside, where we observe traditional hand-rowed wooden boats called pletnas. No noisy gasoline power boats are allowed on this pristine water. Overlooking the lake on this sunny afternoon is the eye-catching Lake Bled Castle, the oldest castle in Slovenia. It rises over 400 feet above the glacial lake, dominating the lakeshore view. Former Yugoslavian dictator Tito's one-time palace now is a swank hotel, the Villa Bled. At its lake overlook is a fantastic view of the island church. Only accessible by boat, 99 steps lead to its entrance. Our guide, Stenka, says the local custom is that on wedding days, if the groom carries his bride all the way up the steps, the marriage will last. Afterwards, she jokes about the high Slovenian divorce rate, but maybe those marriages didn't happen here. We soak up the quiet beauty of this scene. On the way back, Barbara rests comfortably in a convenient chair cut from a stump. The bus is boarded once again, and we move on to another stop in Slovenia. That's Postonja, home of massive caves. There's the dark, rocky entrance. While we wait for our entry time to this popular attraction, Maddie gets some photos of the still blooming gardens. We have to take a little fast-moving train in order to reach the most interesting part of the cavern. At times, some of us anxiously duck, thinking that we'll brush up against the craggy rock wall. We are tantalized by some of the formations, but the best is yet to come once we're on foot. In one of the well-lit chambers, our guide says that there's about 30 yards of height in general from floor to ceiling. Stalactites and stalagmites are twisted into seemingly frozen, yet ever so slowly dripping shapes. Many have been given imaginative names like the spaghetti formations. This spaghetti really stuck to the wall. A Slovenian restaurant welcomes us with the traditional bread and salt greeting. Then we walk down to the cellar to sample local wine, sausage, and cheese. Tonight, costume folk dancers entertain. Later, upstairs, two of them performed the towel dance. Then it's audience participation time and the frivolity of the hat game. The object is to move your hat to your neighbor's head and not drop it or put it on the wrong person's head. It's a game of elimination. From the initial 4, the last 2 have to change hats in time with the progressively faster accordion music. A tie is proclaimed, and victors Cheryl and Sharon get their richly deserved award. Dinner begins with a hearty toast. We leave Slovenia smiling. The next stop lies to the southwest on the Istrian coast of Croatia.